And we're back.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Go Local Live. I'm Ava Gaudette, and up next in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center, coming to us via Skype, we have a percussionist who is going to be doing a solo recital at the Music Mansion here in Providence this weekend, and I'm really excited to talk to him. This is Bill Solomon. Hey Bill.
Hey Ava, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for coming on the show. So really excited to talk to you. I just find it very cool that, as a percussionist, you're going to be doing a solo performance. It's not something you see every day. You see a lot of, piano solo recitals, things like that. So talk to us a little bit about, how you got to be this percussionist. I know you started as a piano player. So how did this evolution happen?
So I started piano at a pretty young age, and I still play piano to this day, but at some point it was time to choose instruments in band, and we thought, hey, why not do drums? So it was something I was doing both piano and percussion for a while, and I went to college actually, and I was told I had to pick one over the other, and it was a difficult decision, but ended up with percussion, and so I studied, got a few degrees. I've been doing this for
just a few.
It's on the one hand, it's something I just sort of stumbled into, but I've kept up with it. So that's what I do for my living now.
That's really cool. Did you sort of feel that this was a void in the industry? Not as many people are doing this kind of thing as piano, or was it just something that creatively you got, more attracted to?
I wish I could say I had the foresight to have that sophisticated sense. No, I think I love piano, but I'm sitting in place usually, and I'm a pretty mobile person, so I like percussion. It's very physical, and there's a lot of variety. So piano, you're always the same instrument, which a lot of people like. It's predictable.
Right.
You get to develop a close relationship. Whereas with percussion, it's a limited category, so every time I play something, it's new, and I have to figure out how this object makes sound or
Yeah, it's really cool. You definitely do have so many options, so many instruments. Is there a particular kind of percussion setup that you use the most, or do you kind of change it up depending on what type of concert you're doing that day or who you're playing with? How does that typically work for you?
Yeah, it depends on if who's in charge of the programming. So, a lot of the work I do, I'm hired to play specific repertoire, and so the instruments are already picked out for me. I played with an orchestra this morning, and that was cymbals and bass drum, and then, I have a concert later this week where I'm playing mostly vibraphone. The recital that I'm giving in Providence is something that I had control over. So and the instruments I'm using, there's a wide variety. So it really depends on maybe my mood and the type of programming I'm interested in, the audience that I'm performing for. So it really runs the gamut of options.
Yeah, it's really, it sort of seems like you have the opportunity to do anything, especially since you do play vibraphone. That is more of like a harmonic instrument, kind of more closely related to piano, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Are you going to be kind of utilizing all that stuff in this concert? Is it improvisational? Is it compositional? How do you typically go about it?
Yeah, there's actually a good variety of works in the program. The whole concert is based around, I'm working with composer Kirsten Volness, who is the curator of the series. And we've known each other for a very long time. She's written a lot of pieces for me. I've played a lot of her works. And I decided to start this new project, which she was the first person where I wanted to commission a work for my birthday. So instead of getting birthday presents, people helped raise money to give to a composer. So Kirsten was my first choice, and I wanted a solo vibraphone piece from her because she's really good at writing for that instrument. And so that was where we started the program with, and that's the most traditional work on the program in terms of instruments. The rest of the pieces, I've got pieces that are very improvisatory, where the score, my friend Arthur Hernandez, another piece that he wrote for me, and that's for some drums and a gong, and it's a very sort of broad, open work that I have a lot of freedom within the score to do what I want. And then some of the other works are very, determinate score where I'm playing every single note that they wrote for me. So there's a good variety within the pieces.
So cool. And
Yeah.
so stylistically, you've kind of been described as like new music performer. That's a very open genre, I think. How would you describe your, stylistic sound?
Yeah, it's always a tricky thing because technically what we're doing is classical music, and a lot of people who are doing new music don't want to identify with classical, but that's actually where I put myself because that's how I was trained. To me, classical music is working with score that a composer gives you, and my job is to realize it as best as I can. So even though I'm doing some things that fall way outside of what one would consider classical music, that's where I situate myself.
Right.
There's some very abrasive music on this concert, and there's some
Cool.
very
I like
lyrical.
that.
Yeah, this piece, another piece by Per Bloland, who's an electroacoustic composer. His piece is for a snare drum that's flipped upside down with a speaker on top of it, and I've got a laptop and a mouse, and I'm hitting stuff and all these crazy sounds. I'm singing into the drum. So that's a pretty noisy experimental work versus, I'm trying to think. I actually have a piece of my own on the program, which is a lot more traditional, that is for some conga drums and some wood blocks, and that sort of has more of a groovy feel to it. So, new music is a good term, I would say, but it's a fraught term.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, there's really so many things that you can do and that you do musically that it seems a little difficult to describe. I went to your SoundCloud page, and there's everything from like this very sparse sort of ambient type of stuff, and then there's like a dance tune. I love the kind of range. Is there something that you're doing experimentally music wise, or are you kind of sticking to these things that you are getting hired to do as a percussionist?
I've always sort of liked to take stock of what's around me and see, what people are in my community that I can work. I love collaborating with people. Almost all the pieces on the program were either written for me or composers that I know personally. So that's the sense of community is really important, and realizing that the composer writes the work, I perform it, there's an audience that you're performing for, and so and professionally it makes sense to me to not limit myself in terms of one niche of music. I like to, it's professionally advantageous for me to play as many different types of music as well as I can. So, I think variety is good, and depending on the concert, I'll change. If I'm playing for a general audience, I might not give them something really harsh and really challenging, not because they can't handle it, but just they need a different entry point into what I'm doing, versus an audience that's a bit more seasoned, that kind of knows the language. I can push a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely appreciate what you were saying. As a musician, you want to be working. So if you can be that go-to percussionist that can play anything, that's going to keep you working. And then you do have these opportunities like your concert at the Music Mansion, which actually supports more experimental types of musicians, and you can do your thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's good to sort of have, just engage as many different types of people, and sort of, I like to find where people are at and then sort of meet them and see what I can provide them. It's, even though I'm doing a solo concert, I don't feel like it's about me, but it's sort of bringing all these different strands together that I can sort of share, and I feel a conduit in some sense, in which, these ideas can come through that are sort of floating around in the artistic communities that I'm, working in.
Yeah, definitely. And you're also a member of a duo called Bent Duo with another musician, piano player David Friend. Tell us a little bit about the duo, and how does that differ from what you do as a solo artist?
Sure. So I've known David since, maybe 2010 or so. We've played in different groups in New York and around for a while, and I've been in a few different duos over the years. It's a format I've always loved because I have these close friendships, and people move and lives change. And they're like relationships. And so David's my new duo partner, and we started this project Bent Duo earlier in the year, and we realized we had a lot of overlapping interests that we wanted to start programming for. The one thing about being a hired hand is you don't always have a lot of say in what you do. And we love the music we work with, but it's nice to have a voice and maybe find some interesting tracks that aren't getting enough attention. And, Dave and I also have a lot of interest in queer theory and ideas surrounding, the LGBT community. And so we've been working with composers. That's one part of our project. And doing some more performative sort of works. David plays piano, I play percussion, and sometimes in New York it's really hard to get both of those instruments in the room at the same time. So we've developed a whole set of repertoire that doesn't require either of those, that is more about our bodies and our voices, and maybe more aligned with performance art that might be a place where people might put us. So, once again, we're just sort of seeing what sort of different spaces we can work in, art spaces, alternative spaces, and then, and then we can throw together a regular concert and, recital, and we enjoy doing that as well.
That sounds really cool. You sound like a super busy guy. You have a lot going on. You mentioned earlier about your, interest in the LGBT community, and you did found an organization. Tell us a little bit about this. It sounds really cool, and it seemed like part of your thesis for school that you sort of touched upon this subject. So tell us a little bit about your organization.
Sure. So I started a group called the Queer Percussion Research Group, and for my doctoral thesis, I wanted to do something different than what I was expected to do, which was sort of standard analysis of repertoire. And without going into too much detail, percussion in the 20th century has a very queer history with composers like John Cage, Lou Harris, and Henry Cowell, and I wanted to explore those ideas. I did my research over a long time and started reaching out to people. And I have a friend in Norway, she's American. I have a friend, she's in upstate New York, and then I have a friend in Toronto now. And the four of us realized our research was sort of along similar sorts of lines. So we started a group. We're working on a collection of writings that will hopefully be out in mid-2018, and a big event hopefully in Toronto. So we're just sort of trying to bring different issues of visibility to our musical community and to the LGBTQ community, and finding different ways they overlap. Percussion is going through a lot of issues with representation, people talking about gender and race, and so this is sort of our contribution, and hopefully as we start, we haven't even done anything yet, and people know about us, and we're talking about it. And also people who are like, oh, hey, I'm doing, work on, I met a woman who does queer techno work. I mean, it's so cool. I'm meeting all these interesting people. So it's been really fun, and hopefully that's a project that will keep moving on. So
yeah, really cool. I love that people already know about it. It definitely seems like there's a need and a want for something like that. So good luck with that organization. And Bill, thank you again for being on the show today. Again, his performance will be this Friday. It's the First Fridays series at the Music Mansion here in Providence. So go check it out if you can. Bill Solomon, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ava. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on today.
Yes, of course. We're going to take another quick break. I'm going to set up for my next guest, so please stick around.